Welcome to Sizzle Fantasy Sports, the channel with the most sizzling hot fantasy takes and analysis, presented by your host, Gavin.
Rodgers clean pocket, throws the middle to Yancey, touchdown, and a dagger!
How's it going, you guys? Welcome back to the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today I'm coming back at you guys with an early week mock draft. We do these every single week here. We're probably getting around 10 or so on the channel so far. I haven't done all of them. Obviously, my partner Eric does some of these as well. But today we've got another exploration of the big board today. We've got some quarterback trade news with Sam Darnold being shipped off to the Carolina Panthers. So there's a lot more to talk about today and another situation to play out here. So if you guys are new around here, make sure to head down and click that subscribe button. We do all things football, tons of fantasy content, and lots of mocks just like this. So if you guys are into that, make sure to click that subscribe button. But even more important than that, you guys, Eric and I here at SFS, we dropped our official website. Down at the bottom of your screen, you can see sizzlefantasy.com. Head over there, you guys, and check out our 2021 draft guide collection. We've also got SFS Gold, which is our exclusive content and the best product that we have out there for you guys. So check that out and see if any of that interests you. Even if you're not sure you guys want to buy something right away, you can register an account for free and become an SFS member and make things a lot easier if you decide to purchase something later, such as some merch that will eventually be dropping. So that was a lot of talking, you guys, but we're going to get right into today's video. I'll see you in the mock draft. All right, you guys, here we are in today's mock. I'm going to be trying to move a bit quicker with things as my last couple mocks have been going a bit long. So we're going to speed things up here and try and get through this quickly. Trevor Lawrence here, the Jacksonville Jaguars with the #1 overall pick. This one, it's nothing surprising. The writing has been on the wall for over a year now. Trevor Lawrence is the obvious choice at #1 here. The #2 overall pick, the New York Jets. I've settled into this one here kind of. Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU, I think is the best fit and is probably the community-wide consensus in the National Football League for who the second overall draft choice is going to be. The Jets just moved off Sam Darnold for a package of 3 draft picks. The better of the picks are in the 2022 draft class, but they do get a 6th rounder for him this year. So the New York Jets obviously need a quarterback this season. That's where they're going with this #2 overall pick. I think Zach Wilson is the best fit here. Then at #3, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Justin Fields with that pick that they traded up for from the Miami Dolphins. I think Justin Fields, just like Trey Lance, possesses a lot of the same intangibles and athletic abilities. I've heard, obviously, the Mac Jones buzz has been picking up lately, but I don't think that that is necessarily what's going to happen here. I think if you're San Francisco, you're putting up a bit of a smoke screen right now with all this Mac Jones buzz, because if you're moving up to that 3rd overall pick, while I think Mac Jones has some really great pro-ready qualities, I think that the ceiling lies higher within Trey Lance, who I had going in last mock. That's why I changed things up here with Fields at 3. And I think these guys are just a bit more mobile. Their arm talents are just the same as Mac Jones, if not better in terms of their arm strength and their accuracy. So that's where we're going here. Justin Fields at #3 out of Ohio State. There's fair reason for concern here with all these quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence. So if we want to get into that in the comments, that's fine. I'm happy to discuss that with you guys down there. At #4, I have a trade here. I have the Patriots moving up with the Atlanta Falcons to select Trey Lance, the quarterback out of North Dakota State. Just like Justin Fields here, I think the Pats, honestly, we're running out of trade partners to move up for these quarterbacks, especially with the Panthers, who have been rumored to be one of the more aggressive teams in the quarterback market this offseason. They went out and seemingly got their guy with Sam Darnold. They traded for him and picked up that 5th-year option right away. So Trey Lance here, I think him and the Pats are a nice fit. Whether it is Trey Lance or Justin Fields available on the board, I think they do a lot of the same things very well. And I think that for the Pats, who right now have Cam Newton as that guy, this makes a lot of sense. And I think Cam can really help these guys who are up-and-coming mobile quarterbacks really develop and fill those shoes as the future of the Pats franchise. I like the move here at 4 as well, with Atlanta moving back and acquiring some draft capital for this trade. Then at #5, the Cincinnati Bengals have Penei Sewell, honestly the best offensive line prospect in years here, fall into their laps at #5. There's been rumors about Jamar Chase, or at least Joe Burrow reportedly seeking out Jamar Chase from his front office. I actually mocked that in my last mock draft I did here on the channel, but I've talked about it all offseason. I think if the Bengals go anywhere other than offensive line, you are making the wrong choice here. I know that they have Jonah Williams at left tackle from a couple classes ago. He's solid. They just brought in Riley Reif, I believe, from the Vikings. It doesn't matter to me. He got absolutely cooked when he was in the NFC North. You need to go out there and address this position again. Joe Burrow cannot get killed back there, especially coming off such a significant injury. You have to keep your franchise quarterback upright and healthy. This pick is a necessity at number 5. Then at number 6, the Eagles traded this draft pick away to the Miami Dolphins, who moved back from 3 to 12 and then back up to 6. Lots of trading for the Miami Dolphins in the last 2 or 3 seasons here, but nonetheless, the Dolphins, I've got them taking Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. I talk about Rashawn Slater and Penei Sewell and bring up this point almost every mock. Rashawn Slater is the more NFL ready of the two prospects. Penei Sewell has the higher ceiling. I think Slater comes in here and makes a big deal for Tua Tagovailoa. They went out and got Will Fuller in free agency. They've already got some nice pieces on that offense as well. I think it's time to protect your pocket passer in Tua and give him the best tools he needs to be successful in that offense, because I think if surrounded with the right stuff, Tua can have a very productive career. At number 7 here, Jamar Chase heads to Detroit to play football for the Lions. I think Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in this draft class. He is the most prototypical wide receiver 1, that X-type wide receiver that you can line up on the side of the formation all alone by himself. He has the best athletic traits in this class. He is a bully after the catch, and he is a physically imposing wide receiver. There's other guys that are more explosive and better route runners in this class, but no one possesses the pure physicality that we see out of Jamar Chase. I think you need to give him some help, or at least Jared Goff, excuse me. You need to give Jared Goff some help if you are a Detroit Lions general manager right now. I think that should be part of the primary focus here, outside of maybe addressing offensive line if Slater were to have fallen here at 7. But I think that with the top 2 offensive line prospects off the board and Jamar Chase still hanging out here at 7, that's the direction you go if you are the Lions. Then at number 8 here, I've got the Carolina Panthers taking Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. Let's be honest here, you guys. Ian Thomas got a lot of hype last season, and he did not deliver from a production standpoint in the receiving game. I think that if you insert Kyle Pitts into this offense, we're going to know if Sam Darnold is it or not. Is he truly a bust, or was it the toxic environment of the New York Jets? I'm a Sam believer. I think he can get it done. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are fantastic weapons to start with here. Add Kyle Pitts into the mix. There's no excuses. I like Teddy Bridgewater, but clearly the Panthers are telling us he is not their future and not what they're investing into long term. So I think Kyle Pitts kind of helps out Sam Darnold in the future of the organization and the direction it's going. Then at number 9 here, I've got Micah Parsons headed to the Denver Broncos out of Penn State. I think there's a couple things that the Broncos could do here. I think Von Miller's time in Denver is winding out. We've seen winding down, Micah Parsons, we've seen him rush the passer at Penn State. He's an athletic freak, ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. The guy is a heck of an athlete. I think in year 1, with Von Miller still expected to be a part of this football team, you can play Micah Parsons inside as an off-ball linebacker, and maybe in the future, if Von Miller either chooses to walk away in free agency or just becomes a player with a minimized role on that football team, I think you can start to do some more things with Micah Parsons. But as a guy who's a really great athletic prospect here, I think there's some molding that can be done with this already solid outside linebacking crew. I think there's some developing that Micah Parsons needs as a coverage guy as well. And so there's just some tools that Parsons could pick up here in his first or second season if he's not an immediate superstar player for the Broncos organization. At number 10 here, my first corner off the board in this mock draft is J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. I think J.C. Horn has a great prospect profile. He's long. He has really good speed. He actually ran a faster 40-yard dash than Jalen Ramsey did. Those arms are very long, as I said, and that is really good for your taller press man corner who is going to be able to get in the wide receiver's face and jam him at the line of scrimmage. I think J.C. Horn can be an incredibly disruptive prospect here, and for a Cowboys secondary that is in desperate need of a true number 1 corner, a shutdown guy that can really do a lot of things for that secondary. This is a great pick here. You won out last season. You got Trayvon Diggs. He's a nice ball hawk. I talk about this a lot as well, but he is not the guy that you can count on consistently play after play to shut guys down. So go out there and get J.C. Horn here, really improve those top 2 corners on that roster, and I think the Dallas Cowboys are moving in the right direction defensively there. Then at number 11, I've got the Giants taking Devontae Smith out of Alabama. I think Devontae Smith makes more sense now after the Kenny Golladay signing than Jalen Waddle as opposed to beforehand, because I think Kenny Golladay is that guy who makes explosive plays down the field. He's the guy that's going to win those jump balls and give you those chunk 20-plus yard plays. Devontae Smith, to me, is the guy who runs the more complete route tree of underneath routes. Jalen Waddle is crazy explosive. He runs great routes all over the field, but especially down the field. Devontae Smith does that stuff very well, but he's especially a great slant route runner and in-breaking route runner. He also can stop on a dime on curl routes as well, which is something I've been really impressed with him on tape for. So I think Devontae Smith gives the opportunity for Daniel Jones to really have a safety blanket underneath. That's why the pick goes Smith over Waddle at 11. At number 12 here, the Eagles in the trade where they moved backwards with the Dolphins take a position I have not addressed yet for them. Elijah Vera-Tucker, I write him as an offensive lineman out of USC because he is just that. He's not a guard or a tackle. He is a versatile piece that can be moved all over the board here for Philadelphia. That's important to me because the Eagles have struggled in one main category over the past couple seasons since winning that Super Bowl, and it has been injury and offensive line health. Elijah Vera-Tucker gives this team the versatile opportunity to be able to have guys go down throughout the season and have a guy where you can move them all over the board and insert them at various starting positions on that offensive line. Coming from a Packer fan, I know a thing or two about versatile offensive linemen. We're always shuffling around the board and changing up the starting alignment. Elton Jenkins, Billy Turner, Lucas Patrick, they're always starting all over the place for us. Really, the only guy that stays in one spot is David Bakhtiari at left tackle. So I think Elijah Vera-Tucker can come in as a member of this Eagles organization and be a crucial guy in protecting Jalen Hurts for this upcoming season. Then at number 13 here, a guy who has been soaring up my draft board is Tevin Jenkins, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. Tevin Jenkins is not only an athletic prospect, but he's a guy who has flashed very nice potential in the pass blocking game and especially the run blocking game. I think where he has moved up my board is how he surprised me in his sneaky ability to be a very solid pass protector. Tevin Jenkins is also a massive human being. He is 6'6", 320 pounds, and I think for a team looking to protect Justin Herbert, who is looking like one of the more premier quarterback prospects to come out of the last few years, he's going to be an absolute beast, and they need someone to protect him and keep him upright, as I talk about all the time on the channel here. It's almost... it probably gets to a point where it's annoying for you guys how much I say if your quarterback is on his back, you're not winning games. But Tevin Jenkins here at 13. I think this is the pick. It's usually been Darrisaw or Vera-Tucker, but this time we move Jenkins up the board, and he goes to the Chargers at 13. Then at 14, right after him, just talked about him, Christian Darrisaw here, the offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech, heads to Minnesota to become a Viking. I think just like the Chargers and a lot of teams in this draft class, they severely need help on the outside at protecting their quarterback. Kirk Cousins, he's crazy hated on. He is a solid NFL quarterback. You can win games with Kirk Cousins throwing the football for your football team. But look, right now, he actually somehow downgraded at the offensive tackle position this offseason. His starters that were getting paid the big bucks were not doing a good job, so they cleared that slate off. They cut Reef, and I forget their other tackle's name. But now they have two guys who aren't the most experienced players in the world, so you might as well go out here in the first round and address that need because it's not going to be resolved overnight if you don't do anything about it. So Christian Darrisaw here at 14. I think this makes sense for Minnesota. Get a guy who's massive like Darrisaw. He can help in both the running and the passing game, but I think the most important emphasis here is protecting Kirk Cousins and giving him time to pass to those very, very talented wide receivers. At number 15, the Falcons, in the trade where I had them moving backwards with the Patriots, take a corner here, Patrick Surtain, the DB out of Alabama. I think Pat Surtain, it's really arguable right now between him and J.C. Horn for that corner one spot. Before the injury to Caleb Farley, he was far and away my cornerback one in this draft class, but the significance of that back injury has had him falling down my board, And honestly, for good reason. Health is a skill in the NFL, and if you can't stay healthy and on the field, that's a major concern. And while I'm not completely taking away Caleb Farley's credibility as a healthy and durable player from one injury, I think it is something that affects his draft stock here. So I think you see those other guys rise above him. I will say this right now, in the public eye, I think Pat Surtain is the community cornerback 1 overall. I do think that it's a more popular take to have him as the top guy in this draft class, but he ran a bit of a slower 40 than J.C. Horn. Obviously, it doesn't come down to just one thing at your pro day, but in the end, based off what I've seen on tape, I think they're both really solid prospects. I just have him graded slightly lower than J.C. Horn. Nonetheless, though, the Falcons are getting a stud here at 15. I think Pat Surtain can be just what they need in that division. There's so many talented wide receivers in the NFC South, so addressing that secondary that was very putrid last season is a huge need for Atlanta. Then right after him here, number 16, the Arizona Cardinals go Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. Farley, I just talked about it. He was my corner 1 in this class. Prior to that injury, the Cardinals need corner badly. They brought in Malcolm Butler, but that's not enough. You need to continue to bolster that group in this draft class. At number 17, I've got the Raiders taking Kwity Paye, the edge rusher out of Michigan. I think Paye is, in my opinion, the most refined guy coming into the NFL. Maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling of a guy like a Gregory Rousseau, who has the freakish athleticism and the body type to just dominate at the next level, but he does have the technical skills to be a better pass rusher day 1. I think Kwity Paye is fantastic at both bending the edge and rushing on the interior. His hands are excellent, and the ability to match that of the offensive lineman and either chop the hands down or swipe them up and get right to the quarterback has really impressed me on tape. So Kwity Paye, he seems like your stereotypical John Gruden and Mike Mayock prospect. I think this makes a lot of sense at 17 here. Then at number 18, I've got the Miami Dolphins, where they passed on wide receiver with their first pick, coming around here at number 18 and addressing it with Jalen Waddle out of Alabama the second time around in the first round here. I think Jalen Waddle is a stud. I think this is a loaded wide receiver draft class. But obviously, he falls down a little bit to 18 here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go sooner. But I think Jalen Waddle kind of fits the mold of what Tua works well with. I think that guys like Devontae Parker, Tua struggles to find a solid connection with because Devontae Parker is not going to run the route tree to perfection. He's going to go down the field on those deep jump balls, and he's just going to win the contested catch. And I think Tua is a bit more of a conservative quarterback. He's not looking to make the big risky play. He wants guys that run routes very well. And at the very least, Jalen Waddle is a guy who separates deep down the field with speed and great route running. I don't think Devontae Parker is an example of that great speed paired with that route running. And I think Jalen Waddle is a bit more of what he's looking for. I think we see this with the Will Fuller acquisition. And all in all, I think Jalen Waddle just better fits what we might want to see a wide receiver look like for Tua and that Dolphins offense. So that's the pick here at 18. Then at number 19, I've got the Washington football team selecting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame. JOK is a very versatile linebacking threat. He's a guy who is both an excellent pass coverage guy. I've actually watched him in the college football playoff on film guarding Devontae Smith. He didn't do quite a good job of it, but in general, it shows the faith that the football team had in him covering Smith. Smith didn't necessarily just completely cook him, but JOK was responsible for covering him when he was running routes out of the slot. So nonetheless, got off on a bit of a tangent there, but JOK is a guy who can do a lot of things for your defense. The Washington football team, believe it or not, despite how good that defense is, their linebacking crew is a bit weak. So I think bringing in a guy like JOK adds a nice level of depth to that defense at the very least, and that's not what you're going for with your first overall pick. So I think that it's that immediate impact with the coverage ability and the ability to play the run as well for such a guy. He's a bit shorter, but he does have long arms and is a very strong tackler at 19. Then at number 20 here, the Chicago Bears, I've got them taking Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. I think Bateman here is one of the most underrated wide receivers in this draft class. I love the fit for Chicago in particular because you tagged Allen Robinson for this season, but I think that right now, if we look at Chicago's franchise from a holistic perspective, and if we're honest with ourselves, this team is not really seeing a winning run in any of their plans in the near future. Andy Dalton is, in many teams' eyes, he's a bridge quarterback. He's not a franchise guy that you're going to build around and invest the future of your team into. And I think that what that means is the writing on the wall for Allen Robinson is he wants to get the heck out of Chicago. Eric, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I know you're not going to like to hear that. But I think you have to bring in a younger wide receiver. Rashad Bateman honestly reminds me a lot of a Devontae Adams or an Allen Robinson. He's a bit, he's taller than 6 feet, so he's got some nice size to him, but he is a very, very good route runner. He doesn't pop off your screen from an athletic perspective, but he is very, very technically sound. He plays football at an elite level. I think that if you're the Chicago Bears, start from the ground up here, draft a young wide receiver and develop him so that when you do finally find the answer at quarterback, if that hopefully eventually happens sometime here or there, then you have your guy going forward at the wide receiver position for the long term. At number 21 here, I've got the Indianapolis Colts taking Jalen Phillips out of Miami. I think the Colts could really use another strong pass rusher and run player on that defensive front. DeForest Buckner is the centerpiece of that D-line, but other than that, they don't really have an elite group up front. I think Phillips adds to this. He's a spark plug. He would add some character and emotion to that Colts defense, and I think that they can really use him as a piece to build around that Buckner-led front. So I like the fit here at 21 for the Colts. I think that they could go wide receiver and try and improve that offense for Carson Wentz that he will be inheriting next season, but I think defense is a solid option to go as well for Indianapolis. At 22, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver out of Florida. Toney is a guy that I absolutely love in this draft class. There are so many wide receivers that I love in this draft class, but Kadarius Toney in particular is an absolute menace after the catch. This guy plays physical, he is fast, and he is just an all-around build of a superstar potential wide receiver. He's not refined yet. He doesn't have the best technical ability. Like I said, he's a bit raw, doesn't have the best routes in the world. But this guy, if coached up and if he learns and develops properly, the sky is the limit for Kadarius Toney. You put him on an offense with a guy like A.J. Brown, they just need some more insertion of offensive firepower. They lost Jonnu Smith. They lost Corey Davis. Those are two underrated pieces of that offense. You're going to need guys to replace and refill those targets and reps there. I think Kadarius Toney is a great option to do that, and learning from a guy at the wide receiver position like A.J. Brown could be huge to Kadarius' career. At 23, I've got the Jets with their second first-round pick selecting Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. I think Najee Harris is the best running back in this draft class at the moment. If you asked me a year ago, I would have told you Travis Etienne, and I think it's very close. But Najee Harris gets the slight bump, and I think he's a bit of a better fit for the Jets franchise right now. If you look at Robert Saleh and the offense he comes from in the Kyle Shanahan tree back in San Francisco, they run a committee-style offense. They brought in Tevin Coleman. They've got some other names in there that aren't two elite running back prospects. But I think you bring in a guy who is closer to that level of play, and Najee Harris. And while Najee Harris might not be a day one bell cow for your Jets offense, I think he's the guy that comes in there and commands the majority of the touches and really helps out a rookie quarterback that you'll be selecting back with that number 2 overall pick. At 24 here, we're sticking with the theme for the Pittsburgh Steelers that it's been in my last few videos. Honestly, throughout this offseason, it's been pretty consistent. Interior offensive line is a glaring need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wyatt Davis out of Ohio State, he's the best guard in the country in my opinion, and I think that for a team that had little to no running game last season, this one's a must. I think you got to go Landon Dickerson, Wyatt Davis, maybe Deontay Brown out of Alabama. One of those three guys needs to be in the mix there. We've got a new pick here, a new player on the board that we haven't seen here. My Green Bay Packers trading up from the 30th overall pick, it was either 30th or 29th, with the Jacksonville Jaguars to select Elijah Moore, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. I think that Elijah Moore could be something huge for Aaron Rodgers and this Packers offense. I absolutely love the guy as a prospect. Great route runner. He can do things deep and the intermediate level or on the short game. I think he's a very underrated prospect. We just saw Ole Miss 2 years ago pump out A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. Elijah Moore isn't quite of a physically imposing receiver as those two guys, but he is a very, very great athlete in his own right. Green Bay's been missing a true slot receiver ever since Randall Cobb departed in free agency. And I think that Aaron Rodgers could really use this. Like I said, he's got a lot of big, tall wide receivers right now that aren't necessarily the best at running the full route tree outside of Devontae Adams. A guy like Elijah Moore here at 25. Moving up, like I said, with the Jaguars, Brian Gutekunst, their general manager, has moved places in the first round of each of the 3 drafts he's been involved in. So I would not be shocked at all to see some more draft day movement from the Packers in round 1. I think Moore's a great fit here. I'd love to see him in some more mocks that I've got coming out here in the coming weeks. And I think he's a guy I would definitely have on your radar as a late first round pick that could turn into a potential future superstar. At 26 here, the Cleveland Browns, I've got him taking Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. Collins is a guy I've raved about in previous mock drafts, and I think that he's a guy who can potentially transition very well into the National Football League if he goes to the right coaching staff. Right now, the linebacking position is the clear weakness and need for the Cleveland Browns. Zaven Collins is a guy who he has a lot of potential. On tape, we've seen him do just about everything you could ask a linebacker to do at the college level. He's blitzed, he's played coverage. He's done it all. He plays great in the run game. But I think the main knock on Zaven Collins right now is that he played a bit of a freelance style at Tulsa, and he's going to have to rein it in a bit more in the National Football League and be coachable. And I think that that's something he can certainly do. I don't know too much about Zaven Collins and his character, but I think just being a football player, that's in your nature. Generally, guys are able and willing to expect coaching and play within the scheme. So I think that he comes into Cleveland and makes a big impact in that run and pass game at 26. Then at 27, Baltimore, I've got them taking Landon Dickerson, the center out of Alabama. I think Landon Dickerson is a guy who is also kind of slept on as a late first-round pick here. The Ravens had some significant snapping issues in the AFC divisional round against the Bills. And I think it's time you move on here and upgrade in that interior of that O-line. Lamar Jackson needs a strong center for that running game. Whether he's running the option game or turning around and handing it off to J.K. Dobbins or even dropping back to throw passes, Landon Dickerson can be a great asset to this offense. And I think having an intelligent center is highly underrated as it is in the league today. At 28 here, I have the New Orleans Saints finally taking Mac Jones off the board here with their late first round pick here. I don't know if Jameis or Taysom Hill is the true option for that football team, you guys. Who knows if Jameis Winston has been rid of that turnover bug, and who knows if Taysom Hill can be a true franchise quarterback. My gut says no. I think he's a bit more of a Tim Tebow, kind of a gadget-type quarterback prospect. Nonetheless, here Mac Jones goes to the true quarterback whisperer in the National Football League, in my opinion. I think Sean Payton is one of the best landing spots this kid could go to. We saw him make it work with Drew Brees, who had his obvious and glaring flaws becoming a member of the Saints, and he made a Hall of Fame career out of him. Mac Jones, another quarterback who's not particularly mobile, makes a lot of good reads and a lot of quick first instinct throws. I think he could be a good fit for the Saints here, and I think for a guy who has his question marks about him, but has been buzzed about a lot in the media lately, this could be a nice fit here at 28. At number 29, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting the player I probably would have had them taking at the number 25 spot had I not moved them backwards with Green Bay, and Christian Barmore, who has been my popular mock draft choice for them in my last few mocks here on the channel. Christian Barmore, interior defensive line help in that run game, I think makes a big difference in a division with a lot of strong running games. And honestly, just across the rest of your schedule, it's going to pay major dividends to have a big body like this in the middle plugging up those running lanes. I think Barmore, like I said, this is who I would have had them taking at the 25 spot, and I think they can still get him here moving backwards with the Packers down to 29. So I think they get some nice valuable draft commodity here and get some extra picks to build around Trevor Lawrence. I think this is a smart move and something I would do if I were the GM of the Jags. Then at 30 here, I've got the Bills taking Gregory Rousseau off the board out of Miami. I think that it's finally time to take him off the board here. The Bills need pass rush help. They want to run those defensive ends that are the natural pass rushers in that defense, where their linebackers are more coverage style guys. I think Greg Rousseau comes in here. Maybe he isn't a day one starter, but older guys like a Jerry Hughes or some of those other guys that they have on the edge that aren't necessarily superstar talents, they can coach up Greg Rousseau and help this guy come into the league and eventually become a dominant threat on the edge rushing the quarterback, because I think the one thing holding them back right now from beating a Kansas City is that pass rush, because that secondary is pretty darn good, but the amount of time it takes them to get after the quarterback is what kills this defense. Then at 31 here, you guys, I ramble about it every episode. Kansas City has to take exterior offensive linemen with their first pick here on the board. I don't care if you trade up. Honestly, if you trade down and can get one of these guys at the top of the second and acquire some more draft capital, that's fine. Do that, whatever. The main message here is you have to pick offensive tackle if you're the Chiefs at 31. We all saw it. The Super Bowl was a train wreck. You couldn't look away. Pat Mahomes running for his life. His starting offensive tackles were injured and not on the football field. And within a week of the season being over, both of them get cut. And now this football team is right back to where they started in the Super Bowl. They've got no starting tackles that are competent enough to start for this football team. So Alex Leatherwood here at 31. I think he's the tackle prospect on the board right now that is still athletic enough and dominant enough in the run game to run those scat protections if they're going to pass the ball. But I think the important thing here for Leatherwood is that he is the best run blocker available at the tackle position. And for a team that I think needs to run the ball more with your first round pick last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he helps them out in that asset of the game as well. Then finally here at 32, changing things up here, there's been some talk about running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at number 32. This is the first mock draft that I have diverged from going pass rusher and investing into that group. Travis Etienne, he's the pick for me here at 32 in this mock draft in particular. Like I talk about at the beginning of my videos, I don't always pick exactly as I think things are going to play out. I try to go over different scenarios at the top of the board and show how that shakes things up down towards the bottom and later picks in the round. So this time around, we're exploring this running back scenario here at 32. Nonetheless, we've all seen what Tom Brady has done throughout his career with a dominant receiving back in the backfield. I think Tom could feast on opposing defenses having a guy who is like a James White on steroids, and quite literally Travis Etienne is miles better than James White as a prospect. So add a guy like this to Tampa Bay's offense, and there is going to be problems for opposing defenses. I think Travis Etienne, maybe this isn't the most realistic pick in the world, but I think it is something that could serve this offense quite well for a unit with running backs on short-term contracts. All right, so you guys, that was my latest NFL mock draft. If you guys enjoyed today's video, once again, head down and click that subscribe button and turn the bell on so you guys are notified whenever I come out with a new video. Also, you guys, go check out sizzlefantasy.com, register an account, and check out our draft guide packages. With that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.